this enough that the importance of learning about health equities and making sure that we can get what we need as opposed to what they want to give us is paramount to us surviving in this here society. You know, I am the people's counselor. For those that haven't tuned in before, I am a substance abuse counselor by trade, and we are dealing with what we consider a scourge of an opiate epidemic. Now, for some people, it's new. For people of color, we've been dealing with this for a long time, so there are some things that we must do if we are going to survive this particular encounter, as one of the spoken word artists might say. So we are going to have to start to look at some of the, as I say, it's tax slide, but we have to start looking at some of the processes that we need to go through. All right? And once again, if you look at this particular slide, it talks about with diversity comes a cure. Increased diversity in clinical trials. Now, I know for a lot of us, particularly people of color, we've been spooked by what's known as clinical trials. And unfortunately, that does our community and people of color's community a very big disservice. Because what happens in that hospice is that we wind up getting treatment that was actually experimented on or practice on other ethnic groups that don't necessarily work for us. Okay? So I have to stress that we have to be proactive. We have to be involved in our own health care. Okay? And we have to make sure that we push our elected officials, starting with our aldermen in our communities, on up to our state reps, our Congress people, and we already know what's going on in the White House. Okay, so we're going to really have to start to advocate for getting this diversity and getting this health equities bill, or paradigm, if you will, pushed forward. Okay, because once again, we have to be proactive. All right, now there are some things that's going on, and when you think about this health equities piece, let's take a look at what it actually looks like. All right. Now, once again, if you can see the slide, and hopefully you can, I know it's not that large, but if you can see the slides and you look at what's called equality. Now, what's the problem with this particular depiction? If you notice, the shortest individual cannot see what's going on the field. The next individual can see, and the tallest individual has more than enough space to see. So basically what I'm saying is that equality don't necessarily work if everybody's getting the same thing and you're not getting what you need. Now if you look at the next piece or the box, it says equity. Now the tallest individual doesn't need a box. He may just need a Band-Aid. All right, so he doesn't get the box. The next individual gets a box because he only needs one. The shortest individual gets 2 boxes because that's what he needs to be at a level where he can function and see like everybody else. So if you can understand this particular paradigm, then you see the difference between equality and equity. All right, so I want to make sure that we drive this point home. Okay? Now, with that being said, like I said, I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on with some of the substance abuse components. Let me backtrack for a minute. First, I need to say belated happy Juneteenth. All right? For those that don't know, Juneteenth is a day that was recognized some years ago when the Emancipation Proclamation, for those that's familiar with that particular document and actually believe that it freed people from slavery. All right, it looked like we got a caller, but we need to recognize that Juneteenth is something that we need to become familiar with and celebrate with. Okay.
I want to know, our education, that's where it all starts. Without a good education, you go nowhere. And it seems to me for the last 20, 25 years, all our education has gone down. The tests for the teachers and the students have been dummied down. The mayor and all the aldermen who are the majority are African American and Hispanic. Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed.
And yes.
Yes, so you know what gets me? Everybody blames the White House. There's plenty of blame now. I'm not going to say no. But blame the people in your city.
Okay, all right, caller. Well, I thank you for that comment.
One quick thing. You know, you got to quit voting color and name. And when you go into the voting, make sure that you read up on the people that you're going to vote for. Because the ones in there right now haven't done the right thing. Thank you for letting me talk.
All right. And you are absolutely correct, caller. And with that being said, I concur 100% that education is truly paramount. But we also know that there's been some misdistribution, or could I say misallocation, of resources in certain areas that has to be corrected. And I fully agree with the fact that we need to know who our politicians are. We need to hold them accountable. And if they're not doing what we think they're going to do, then we need to make sure that we get them out of there and get somebody in that's going to work on our best interest. And I concur with you 100%, Carl, and I thank you for that comment, because I am also a proponent of education, and it's not to blame the White House. Don't misunderstand that. I am not trying to blame the White House. What I'm saying is that we know that there's some things going on that is going to cause us some problems at the White House. And of course, we have to be proactive and do what we can at our level, but we know that administrative policy affects all of us. And if we ain't involved in the process of making that policy, then we can become victims of it, or once again, not get what we need in this health equity paradigm. So with that being said, I'm going to go to the next slide, and we're going to invite you all's favorite epidemiologist, community epidemiologist, Sister Yayan, to continue this discussion with you. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Charles Patton, what we call our people's counselor. How are you doing today? Very good. So we've had very lively discussion lately here about what's going on, but just so you know, we definitely have some other things we'd like to talk to you about as well. So I just wanted you to see that we always work with health equity, and as usual, we try to work with everything else. But the real thing I want you to know is, hey everybody, I am Simpson, your favorite epidemiologist, community epidemiologist with Taxi Association of Clinical Trial Services. You know how this works. We come in, we do what we can for the one time we are on for this particular session today. So I didn't get a chance to hear all the conversation, but I do know if you're interested, to Thursday, which is tomorrow, there will be some town hall meetings that one of the aldermen, Carrie Austin, is going to be holding. Those kind of conversations is what you should bring to a town hall meeting, because you want to make sure that not only is your voice heard, but that you're getting the correct information from policymakers themselves. And sometimes we forget we actually have to talk to them just like they have to talk to us. So I encourage anyone that's out in this listening audience, please go to the town hall meetings that your alderman, or even like State Representative LaShawn Ford has a lot of town halls. And I heard about one that he did that had to do with the current events happening in the communities of people of color, specifically blacks in his district and area. That was something that people could have attended. It was free. I heard that it was dynamic and that they really get through some of the harder court issues. We try to make sure that getting through those issues mean that we focus on the things we want to see for our communities. And that's difficult when you have so much against you. And I get it. It feels It feels like it's too much. But that is what tax is all about. Don't let you carry that burden by yourself. You need to carry it with us, the Association of Clinical Trial Services, because we are into advocacy work. What I had wanted to do was greet you all today about it. Was yesterday was June 19th, also known as Juneteenth. And if I could have, I wanted to show you that that particular concept about what June 19th was all about. It really was about black people in this country, enslaved African people, black people were, as they would say, freed. That terminology is loosely freed to do what? But freed on June 19th in Texas, because that was about the time they found out that the president at the time, Lincoln, had so-called, that we have to have the right terminology and language here, but he didn't free the slaves. He, what they call, made it null to have slavery in those areas. So you're saying to me, well, why is that a difference? Because freed slaves means citizenship, and they did not get citizenship once they were freed. So we need to be very careful to not say Lincoln freed the slaves. He did not free enslaved black people or Africans. What he did is emolument, which is basically say that you no longer would be in slavery based on the laws of the land. However, it did not mean that you were a citizen based on the laws of the land. And so June 19th represents another milestone that we had to cover in trying to make sure that we definitely covered or talk about enslaved Africans and black people in this country. So that's where I wanted to start off with you with that. I don't see that we have the slide, which is what I would have done for you, but the slide that we're looking to do would have been the one that talks about June 19th. So at this point in time, I just would like to go right into what happened at the social that we had, and then maybe we could talk about June 19th another time. But I do want you to see the social that we had with last month, that is, with looking at how we looked at women's health social career networking social. There it is. I'm sorry. 8th annual Women's Health Care Center Networking Social. Should be healthcare careers, but that's okay. I wanted you all to see this because we really had a dynamic cast of women that were highlighted and honored in the works of Henrietta Lacks. I've talked to you about who she was before, and these were the ladies that were honored, as you can see right here. One of the things I wanted to bring and highlight is, if you see this, you're seeing it as in what we know it to be our pictures, and I really wanted to point out to you, these were our honorees that received those awards. All of them are activists. All of them are advocates, excuse me. All of them are professional women, as in they work in the business, and every single one of them contributes something to that of healthcare in or some field around healthcare. And what I want to also say is they represented people who were HIV positive, people who were not HIV positive. They represented eldership. They represented young people, and more importantly, they represented their communities. Now, the one that you see in the middle, this picture right here, obviously she's much younger than them, but I wanted to bring up Miss Noah Osongwadi. Anochwa is a violinist. She was homeschooled and got accepted at Northeastern's University for her violin, and she is absolutely outstanding. And she performed for us for this. And of course, the next picture you see, which is right here, you know who that is, right? That is no other than Miss Winnie Mandela. So I wanted to give just patron and honor to those women who have contributed to us as Africans living in this country, and more importantly, the public health. This is something I really wanted to bring out that happened. I really wanted to discuss this with you because it was something we tried for the first time with my new group, Spiritually Speaking, and we definitely focused on where women can talk about health equity. So bringing in, as I always do every show, we always bring up what is health equity. The reason being is because I'm teaching people the concept and the construct. So let's break that out. Concept is the ideology. Construct is the methodology. Does those words make sense to you? One is how you think about something. The other is how you actually implement it. And what we are doing with health equity is we're talking about the concept of health equity and how we think about it. And the construct is how would we actually implement it. And one of the things that I was able to do is I was able to provide a small lecture, as you see here, on the discourse of what is health equity and what you don't know will kill you. And I know that sounded a bit harsh because when I first heard it, I thought it was a bit harsh myself. But it wasn't about what would kill you. It was about, let's be real and put it on the table, people. Everybody living is going to die. We know that. So what we have to deal with? The quality of the life while you're living. That's what we're dealing with right now. Quality of life while you're living. So health equity as the concept is dealing with the quality of life. Health equity as the construct will deal with, well, how does that quality work in my everyday healthcare arena? And in that particular discourse, we had this saying, as I love to point this out to you. I hope you can see this picture right here. It says, what? As above, so below. If you notice that this is a winged beetle who has holding, it's a scarab if you want to use that word. A beetle is holding up an earth or round spear at the top and is holding a round spear at the bottom. I want you to notice that as is above is bigger than as in below. And so what does that actually mean? That means that anything in the universe that is above us is actually what is inside of you. So if we can figure out what's inside of us, we can figure out what's in the universe. This is a very old, ancient Kemetan, Egyptian as you would know it, but Kemetan ideology of there is nothing outside the universe that is not inside of you. There is nothing in you that is outside of the universe. Those two things are synonymous. It is about the actual, not even the DNA. It goes further than the RNA. It gets down to the neutrons, the protons, and electrons of your molecular makeup. Can you come with me? Now, if you can handle that type of science, then you can handle health equity. And I am bridging and breaking the dots toward that type of mentality because health equity requires not you to be equally sick, as we've already stated. Health equity requires you to be equitably well to the best of your being. The being that you know that you are here on the earth with is in your molecular makeup to that which is in the universe. And can those things be synonymous and change? Yes, they can, but it doesn't change outside of anything that has already been changed before. It sounded a little bit like an oxymoron, but what I'm getting at is if there's a detraction or a degenerative part of you, it can be healed because the universe has healed itself before. So I'm letting you know if the universe has been able to heal itself before, then that means so can you. Now, I understand that many of our physicians and other people in practices of public health may not quite get that. And it's a lesson that is an African lesson, so they were not taught this in school. But as they learn more in some of the newer sciences that has come out, and we're going to do a show coming up soon that's going to be on specifically on epigenetics, what it is and why should we be paying attention to it, and what are the purveying or the what is being said about it, what is the insight about it. But as we move into those types of science, epigenetics is just another wave of telling you that what was above is below. Epigenetics deals with the environment of your being and how it changed your molecular structure from based on what you are in that environment. One of those examples that I can tell you right now would be that people who have developed asthma as a correlation to being around a lot of pesticides, namely like roach spray. They've been able to connect that environment of living in roach spray for numbers of years has caused people to develop asthma. Another example of that I was told by someone I'm starting to learn more and more about, and that's Minister Inky. We'll probably see if we can connect with him on this, but he talks about how breast cancer is a result of, some people have developed breast cancer as a result of being around mice feces or roach rodent feces. So again, there is correlation, there is connection, if you will. And I'm careful to say correlation and not causation, because just because A doesn't mean B doesn't mean C. That means that A cannot always say it causes B to give you a C outcome. But we do say it correlates, it has a connection to A to B to give you that C outcome. For my scientists, they've just recognized some of our conundrums that we deal with without being absolute, but always trying to give favor to what it is that we see. So this particular event was something that we did, and so is above, so is below. And you can see right there we have the winged snake around the medicine, the Hippocratic oath was of I do no harm. So I just wanted to show you all that because I thought that it was interesting to have a dialogue around what is health equity and how does it unfold or come into your everyday balance of life. And so the people that I was speaking with weren't in healthcare, but they understood that in order for us to have better healthcare or healthcare outcomes, we have to understand what is our body. So we need to do more discourse on that, you all. I hope that you've been following us on this particular show. I hope that you've been listening about different health ailments, because that is what TACS brings you, the Association of Clinical Trial Research. We are on the verging and cutting edge of what is out clinically, more specifically around HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus, but also around different viruses like hepatitis and other bacterias and funguses like STIs, gonorrhea and chlamydia and those things. But I am starting to learn a little bit more now, not learn, but I'm getting more developed in cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and I'm now going to be thinking more about how we can deal with our mental well-being. Notice I didn't say mental health. Mental health is when you're solid. They misnomer the word. It is your mental well-being is what you're asking to have. Mental health means you already have it, and those who don't have it have a mental illness. And it's an imbalancing project. It's an imbalancing concept of the mind and of the spirit, whether the scientists acknowledge the spirit. I'm a scientist that does, because the spirit is as much of a physical being as it is a ethereal being. In other words, like love, we know it exists, whether you can't touch the love, but you can definitely feel the love. So I want y'all to feel the love from TACS as I have been giving this discourse to you, and I want you to thank you for attending and always being attentive to us. I want to thank Charles Patton, who is our Vice President of TACS, the Association of Clinical Trial Services. He's also the People's Counselor, as you can see his numbers there. If you wanted to touch with me, you can always go to taxforus at gmail.com, or you can go to the website, which I do have to update, at taxforus.org. Again, we want to thank you for attending and looking at CANT TV, one of our partners that we have utilized to bringing science to the people. And the type of science we're bringing is the science that is going to uplift not just your spirit, not just your mind, but your body as well. And we're doing it through the concepts and constructs of what? Health equity. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again next month.